entrepreneurs that sometimes, again, view it as a commodity, real estate. They don't look at it as a process, so they end up without representation. But it's very important. Another thing I'll talk about, since you brought it up, how we get compensated. The classic, there are really three ways in which we can get compensated, or typically get compensated. One of the classic ways that you described is, it's paid by the landlord or the seller or whatever, and it's a commission. There's a commission pro forma in almost any asset that's out there. It's a market, we're basically price makers. And if the landlord has its representative, even if it's in-house, they're getting paid, or they're factoring that in somehow. If the tenant has a representative, then they're basically cutting that in half or taking a bigger piece of it. But if you don't have a representative, they're still getting paid a good portion of what that overall commission is. You're not saving money necessarily, or you're saving very little by not having someone. The only reason why it's done this way is because, particularly entrepreneurs, but all companies, it's just easier for them to basically pay the commission through the rent, which is effectively what's happening. It's pro forma in, as opposed to writing a check. For smaller companies, it's just easier for them to pay for the services, just like they have to pay for any service, that way, as opposed to having to write a check. The second way in which we do get paid is sometimes larger entities do just write a check. They say, I don't want you to get paid by the landlord, we'll work out our own structure and we'll just pay you that way. The other thing is consulting fee. Where this comes up a lot is if you have a really old school landlord or a stubborn landlord that doesn't want to pay commission because you've been in the building for a long time and they don't recognize that that you're bringing value. They don't want you to bring value to the table. Obviously, the landlord doesn't want you to have representation. It's the last thing they want, because you're going to not only look at if you're doing the process correctly, you may discover that facility isn't right for them anymore, or it needs to be restructured, and you may find some other problems in the lease in addition to just reducing the rent. So you may run into that sometimes, and you may run into, I've come in situations like what you've described, where someone was represented or should have been represented. There was a clash there and didn't work out, but the water's already been muddied by the fact that they've been negotiating a deal. But the tenants here, the landlord's confused about who's representing who. They don't want to be in a situation where they may have to pay another commission or something like that. So what you'll do is just engage me or whoever as a consultant, and that happens actually probably 20–25% of the time. Sometimes it's not because there was a feud per se, but it's just the client's more comfortable paying some type of consulting fee for the services, and then I'm working behind the scenes. So that happens as well, and I'm pretty indifferent between what the client actually chooses.